It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mainz and Dutts. I'm your host, Mainz, and my colleague, trying to work out how many bricks it'll take to cross 2,000 miles and build an impenetrable wall. It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
I've just got a question. You know, the Pro Bowl has this skills competition that's going on. In a bit of blatant thievery from our friends at around the NFL podcast, what one skill would you do if asked to design an event? One skill that you know you'll piss them all in the field.
That's a very good question, Neil. What would yours be? Let me think. I haven't got any off the top of my head, which kind of sums it all up, really.
I think correcting people's grammar from 20 yards.
Oh yeah, that'd be my dad as well. I think I could give you 75% of every lyrics of all songs that I've heard more than twice.
Impressive. Can't see it getting televised.
I can't see either of those being televised, although I would like to see full 20 yards if you could read. You don't wear glasses, but I'm suggesting that may stretch your eyesight.
Well, we started weirdly.
We have, well, why have it any other way? And the reason we may as well be starting weirdly, it's the lost week done. There's no games this week. We're in between the championship games and the Super Bowl. So, we're going to recap the championship games, answer a few questions about them, really. Then Dutton's got an interview with Mark Schofield from Inside the Pylon, and Bleacher Report contributor, about basically the Senior Bowl and maybe a bit about Paw Patrol. And then we, at the start of the season, for everyone who's listening, we did, in week one, our predictions for the season. So we thought we'd laugh at them by showing how badly I did. Neil did okay.
I rule.
You do rule, Neil. You do rule. So, Neil, let's get straight on with it and talk about the games last week. I guess we start with the NFC in terms of chronological order. Obviously, Falcons destroy the Packers, really. It wasn't close after the kickoff, I guess. So I guess the question really is, did it just come down to a talent issue in terms of that the Falcons were just more talented than the Packers?
Well, I think so. I mean, the Falcons' offense has been one of the most well-oiled, well-drilled, and better executing units in the whole NFL all season. Whereas the Packers have pretty much got where they did on wishes, dreams, and pixie dust. So I think once that runs out, you go back to what's consistent and what can you hang your hat on. And all season it's been the Falcons.
I think if you look at the Packers, I mean, a great last part of the season. What did they win? 7 games on the run to get to this position, but
8.
But don't forget, this team got absolutely destroyed by a pretty average Washington team. They weren't great at the start of the season, far from it. Aaron Rodgers got hot. They managed to do a few things on offense, but let's be brutally honest, the defense was rubbish against the pass all year. I think they finished 32nd in relation to when you talk about PFF, and when you come against Matt Ryan and the rest, it's an issue. The Falcons didn't really need to run. And that's one of the staples of a Kyle Shanahan offense, and he didn't have to do it because they threw so well and so easily against the Packers.
I mean, it's the spread it around. You've got Julio Jones. We knew he was slightly nicked up. I think it was Jay Glazer who said he had 3 foot injuries going into the game. 3 different feet injuries in the same foot. But on the first drive, Matt Ryan hit 6 different receivers. So it's, obviously we know there's Julio Jones, he's quite important, but they can get by without him. And the Packers' defense it was undermanned, it was undercoached, and it was under-talented.
You mentioned Julio Jones, as you said, three separate foot injuries, but as Robert Mays on the Ringer will tell you, he's a centaur, so he's got 4 legs. So if one of his feet isn't going too well, he should be fine with the other 3. I suppose the only question is Julio Jones actually a human?
Well, I think we can say that he is, because he has missed time because of injury. He's missed I think he's missed a full season. He's missed games in pretty much every season he's played. He's human but he's not on the same level of humanity as we are. It's, it's a quote, it's his world, we just live in it.
So that's 2 NFC Championship games he's been in, and both times he's gone over 150 yards. That's outrageous. That's like what would be determined as some people would call it, the anti-Peyton Manning. That is a rising to the big occasion. And you look back, and in recent years especially, the quote unquote diva wide receiver hasn't really got their team over the edge. I'm not saying that if Julio wouldn't have played, as you said, he passed to 5 other people on that first drive, so it may not have been an issue, but he's definitely a big difference maker, especially in such a weak secondary.
I mean, what are you going to do? Even if you think he's unfit, go man-to-man with him? Good luck.
Yeah, exactly, and I think we'll talk about the Super Bowl next week, but it's going to be tremendously interesting to see how Bill and Matt Patricia come up with a plan to stop Julio and the rest.
You say Matt Patricia, you mean Monty Panesar, don't you?
I do, yeah, I do.
Same initials, looks just like him.
Yeah, spin coach for Australia. Don't know, I guess we're not going to talk about the Packers anymore because they're obviously finished for the season. So is it, if you're the Packers, you just think retool the defence, get the offence fit again, and go again next year?
I think they need a major change of philosophy because we know this team doesn't go into free agency. But they have so many holes. Cornerback is depleted. Sam Shields played 1 game, has missed the whole season because of concussions, but wants to play again. Good luck, son. I don't want you to play again. So they need to go out and try and get... I mean, you look, their best players, the impact free agents they've brought in, Charles Woodson, yeah, he did quite well for them. Julius Peppers has done quite well for them. Jared Cook. So the fact we can name these free agent signings would indicate, yeah, you're very good at picking them. You need to start firing a little bit more. They need to upgrade the secondary because it just seems that Dom Capers has got pictures on someone.
Yeah, I assume you missed Reggie White by accident, not on purpose. I think you're right.
He was all right.
I look at the team and think you need to do something here. And I've been critical of the coaching staff in Green Bay, but it's usually been on Mike McCarthy. I'm not sure how Dom Capers has still got a job. I'm not. I know they defended tremendously well the year they won the Super Bowl, but apart from that, they've been at best Blair. Julius Peppers is now 36, 37. Clay Matthews seems like he's lost a step. As you said, they're really struggling in the secondary, although they're young, so maybe they improve. But I think they need to do something if they think they're going to beat, the Dallases and the Atlantas and the Seattles next year.
Absolutely. And they are wasting, by not stocking the rest of the shelf, they are wasting the prime of Aaron Rodgers.
Yes, absolutely. So if we move over to the AFC, in what was probably a more dominant performance, if that is even possible, the Patriots obviously go ahead and deal with the Steelers. I guess the major question that the Steeler fans will have is do you see if Le'Veon Bell lasts more than the first couple of series, that the game is much different?
It might be different because the Steelers were in the game in the first half. It was just in the second half when you just always sense, just watching it, that the Patriots had another level they could go to, another gear they could step into. And again, it comes down to Keith Butler is a defensive disciple of Dick LeBeau. He's a bit more varied, but ultimately they play a zone defense. And if you're going to do that for every snap against Tom Brady, he will pick the piss out of you, and he did. I mean, some of them, it was. I'm not Matt Harmon. I don't pretend to know everything about wide receivers. I do know that if a wide receiver comes running at you, you can go with him to an extent. You don't just have to let him sit down in a zone and make uncontested catches. But it just seemed that every time Chris Hogan every time Brady needed Chris Hogan, he got the ball and would get yards after the catch. It was weird.
Well, I think that's the issue for me. Don't know if you look, overall, you've got to think about who you're playing. You know, we talk so much, and everyone talks about how Bill Belichick changes his game plan every single team he plays. Like, what was Tomlin and Butler thinking? Like, they basically set themselves up to fail. You've got to rush. You've got to get close. You've got to play man. You've got to get close to Brady, and he didn't do it. And this soft zone is not going to work against a quarterback of the talent of Tom Brady. You know, would they have been better with Bell? Well, yeah, everyone's better with Le'Veon Bell, but let's be honest, you can't rely on him. He's always injured. And, you know, let's be honest, you know, for every Steelers fan who's like, oh, we would have been better with Bell. Well, just so you know, the Patriots missed a guy called Rob Gronkowski. You may have heard of him.
And of course, the Patriots are the one team that, if they don't think they're going to get anywhere by running the ball, they just won't bother. So it was, you know, people thinking, oh, you can run on the Steelers, you go straight at them, hit them in the mouth. No, you don't have to. I mean, this is a team that had 9 rushing attempts, was it, against Buffalo this season or the year before? If they can't be bothered, if they don't think they're going to get any joy from the ground game, they will ignore it. And the Steelers just gave them no reason at all to have to resort to it.
We've talked so much, us and others, about Kyle Shanahan and what an absolutely fantastic job he's done in Atlanta. Given all the praise that Shanahan has got, are we missing out what a spectacular job Josh McDaniels is doing with what, in my opinion, is significantly less talent?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is, you know, it comes down to, these are two people who are coaching their arses off to get the best out of every player they've got. And I say, you look at New England, it's different people getting involved. It's Lewis, it's Blunt, it's James White, it's Chris Hogan, it's Julian Edelman, it's Danny Amendola, it's Martellus Bennett. And then you look the other side, the Steelers have got Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. They lose Le'Veon Bell. Well, I'm sorry, you've painted yourself into the corner of, if we lose one of these two, we're screwed. Because they're not going to respect, you know, Eli Rogers or Jesse James or Sammy Coates. You've got to hand it to Sammy, because he certainly won't catch it. But they just left themselves wide open. And by the way, who flipped the arsehole switch on Antonio Brown the last couple of weeks?
Maybe Facebook. I don't know. He's got a lot of money off him. I just look and think, you know, it's definitely an issue, right? You know, and I just look and think, if you're the Patriots or you're another team, all we ever say is draft talent, draft talent, draft talent. So everyone ever talks about, you need to get talented players on the pitch. The Patriots sometimes seem to fly in the face of that, and you need people who fit schemes and do exactly what you want them to do, which is just pretty spectacular when you think about it.
You think, I mean, no one wanted Kyle Van Noy. You know, the Browns got rid of Jabal Sheard. The Buffalo Bills, well, obviously contract reasons, they couldn't keep Chris Hogan. The Eagles traded away Eric Rowe. And this is the same Patriots team that decides at the start of the season they didn't want Chandler Jones, and mid-season they traded away Jamie Collins. And they allowed the fewest points all season, and now they're going to a Super Bowl. That's some weird voodoo crap they got going in New England.
But it's not, you know, we all, you know, we joke about cheating, we talk about voodoo. It's just the greatest coaching job and talent evaluation in the history of the NFL.
It's buying into the system.
It's not, and you know, exactly, and it's not really close that's the case. Do you know what I mean? It's just, that is what's happened. It's the greatest set of skills, and the ironic thing is, it's one guy.
Yeah, the only constant.
It's not like there's 10 guys who are, you know, a coach and a GM, and we're doing this and we're doing that. It's one guy who basically does it all, and, you know, here's where we are.
But Brandon Marshall is sick of people talking about him.
Well, that's great, Brandon. So if you're sick of people talking about him, A, you could beat him. That would be useful. Or B, you could like live under a rock. Maybe move to Mexico and help build a wall on that side.
Ooh.
Thank you. Final question, Dutton. Shouldn't I expect more from, soon to be retiring quarterback Big Ben? Should I expect more, or is the issue all about the fact that he missed a lot of talent, or his talent's quite young and it's just not quite worked?
Or are we seeing exactly what happened to Peyton Manning but Manning didn't have as strong a running back to lean on while he was declining.
Yeah.
And ultimately, and Adam Rank summed it best, saying, Ben Roethlisberger is the type of person who replies maybe to an invite on Facebook just so everyone will ask him if he's going. He's an attention-seeking git.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm not paying any attention to the retirement rumours. Absolutely not. But I think this season, they've got to the AFC Championship game, and it feels like in certain situations it's despite of Big Ben, not because of him.
Oh, I agree. He's not played well for the best part. Since they decided to become Le'Veon Bell's team, it's not even as if Roethlisberger has held his end up of the bargain and said, okay, we're going to run first, but then I'll chip in. We're going to run first and hope that works because we can't trust him.
Quick question, Dutton. 2004 quarterback class. Overrated, underrated, or properly rated? It's got 4 Super Bowls, by the way, in the top 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah. I think based on what was around at the time, it's probably rated... It's probably gets the credit it deserves, because these are these 3 people I think they've all thrown 300 or nearly 300 touchdowns, 40-odd thousand passing yards each. They're all bloody good, and to be fair, they're all Eli is ridiculously durable. Phil Rivers had a rebirth 6 years ago, and Ben Roethlisberger has won 2 Super Bowls and not played particularly well in either of them. So ultimately, they're all okay.
Next week, obviously, we will go through the Super Bowl in great detail, and we will do a lot of prop bets next week, and we'll attempt to give you a kind of team of the week, although it becomes tremendously difficult, but we'll try. Now, without further ado, as you said, Dutton pre-recorded an interview with Mark Schofield from Inside the Pylon and Bleacher Report to talk about Senior Bowl, drafts, and a few other things. So let's get on with Dutton talking about that.
Joined on the line now by Mark Schofield. You'll know him from Inside the Pylon. He also writes for Bleacher Report. He's written the book 17 Drives. He's a quarterback guru and a Paw Patrol aficionado. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much, Dale. Well, the Paw Patrol thing, that's a bit of a misnomer, I think. But the rest is pretty on point.
Okay. Well, deep down, I think we all have a special place in our hearts for Paw Patrol, I'm sure.
This is true. I mean, the pups, they are adorable at times. I mean, I definitely have a soft spot for Rubble. I mean, he's always on the double, right?
Oh, absolutely. So anyway, the reason we've got you on is not to talk about Paw Patrol, sadly. We talk about the Senior Bowl. Now, one of the more notable absentees from the Senior Bowl this year, it's Clemson's Deshaun Watson. Despite being asked to play by the Cleveland Browns, how unusual a step is that for a team to ask a player? And how overblown an issue will it be as the draft approaches?
I mean, the teams do have the opportunity to reach out to Phil Savage, the executive director of the Super Bowl, to, if there are players that they're interested in, regardless of position, to see if they can get them down here to Mobile to partake in the league, to be part of one of the teams, go through the drills each week during practice, and then obviously the game on Saturday. So that's not that rare of an occurrence. I think in terms of Watson decided not coming down, I can understand both sides of the argument. You definitely want to see him sort of compete during this week, to sort of run an NFL offense, particularly if he's going to be coached by Hugh Jackson and that Cleveland Browns staff. It would be a great chance for him to show what he can do in their offensive structure, get a feel for that early if he does end up going to Cleveland. But at the same time, there's 2 years worth of tape on this guy. We've seen him now in back-to-back national championship games, basically putting that offense on his shoulders against Alabama. A tough defense year in, year out, and this year coming out with a national championship victory. I think you look at some of the throws that Watson made on that final drive. There's the actual throw to Jordan Leggett, for example. He answered a lot of the questions that I think scouts had about him, pushing the ball down the field, making throws outside the numbers or outside the hash marks. And so, when it comes down to it, I think Watson's got the tape to show that he will come to the NFL, and I think, his career backs that up. And now, really, he's going to get a feel for some of these teams off the field, and meetings, boardrooms. And that's really when it's going to be something where it goes in the first.
I mean, Could it be argued that, from a development point of view, for, preparing yourself for the draft, that actually playing in the Senior Bowl is probably one of the lesser important aspects of the whole week?
Yeah, I mean, there's an aspect to that, and, coming down here in the Super Bowl, what guys are really looking for, what coaches are looking for in these players, how quickly they can adapt to coaching. I mean, because they're getting, early this weekend or on Monday, a new playbook, basically, they're going to start working through. How quickly can they adapt to that? And so, for a guy like Watson, who's coming from that Clemson, that spread offense, he's going to be moving into more of a NFL-style offense. You'd like to see how quickly he can pick that up. So, from that point of view, can he progress throughout the week, and then on Saturday during the game, like being able to execute what he's learned during the week? It's a really good thing to see for us teams to get a real sense of how he's going to come into a camp as a rookie, develop in a new offense, learn a new structure, and be able to operate it. So, maybe in some sense, a tiny bit of a missed opportunity, but I think Watson's got the case to stand on from his career at Clemson.
I mean, there's two players who are present, but they won't be able to play because of injury. It's Chad Kelly and Seth Russell, quarterbacks. Obviously, I'm just talking at the moment. What do they have to do to try and improve their draft stock, considering they can't showcase anything on the field?
Right, and I think for those two guys in particular, the fact that they came down here speaks to what they needed to do, even if they were healthy and ready to play. We can start with Chad Kelly. I mean, he got 2 knee injuries, so that's going to be a red flag. So his medical is going to be a big issue. Teams now get a chance to at least get some medical work done on him, see how that knee is coming along. So that was one red flag he needed to address. Another is off-the-field stuff. He kicked off the team at Clemson. He had some incidents this year. He's in a high school game with his brother. He ran on the field, and that got kind of went viral on social media. There were some question marks why he put himself in that situation. So, for Chad Kelly, the chance to meet with teams, those one-on-one meetings, which are a big part of the week. I mean, there's a lot that goes on away from the field, away from the practice field, that goes into the Senior Bowl. So, for Chad to be able to sit down with coaches, personnel, directors, kind of talk through those issues, that might be some of the concerns that teams might have them. I mean, you see the tape on the field. He's a dual-edged threat of a quarterback. He makes wild moments, wild throws, and doesn't have to scratch his head. I mean, he's a gunslinger, so he's going to get on the field. It's the opposite of Chad Kelly. And it's a similar thing, Neil, with Seth Russell. I mean, Seth's a quarterback in that Baylor system that, again, the offensive structure hasn't totally lent itself to developing quarterbacks because they run a lot of 1 and 2 receiver route concepts that you're not going to see on Sundays. And so for Seth, what he can do is sit down with these teams with a whiteboard sessions and sort of talk through work sort of offensive play structure and show that he starts to pick up an NFL type offense. So I think it was important for both those guys, even though they couldn't participate in the on-field work, to get down here and have that time with coaching staffs away from the field to address some of the concerns that teams might have about them.
There's 4 teams who've drafted at least 25 players who've attended the Senior Bowl since 2010. There's the Ravens, the Eagles, the Browns, and the Patriots. Given that this year it's a record number of underclassmen who've declared for the draft, is the Senior Bowl still the best way for attendees to put themselves in a great position to catch teams' eye?
I mean, I think it's a great week for guys to prove themselves in the eyes of at least one team. Remember, that's all it takes. I mean, you just need one team, even one coach of one team, to like what you can do on, to appreciate who you are off, for them to be able to fan the table for you come draft day, come the second, come the third round. And so again, I was talking a little bit earlier, Neil, about the stuff that takes place away from the practice facility. I mean, you go to the Renaissance on the river here, which is the hotel where it's kind of Senior Bowl takes place, kind of Senior Bowl Central. You've got meetings going on almost around the clock where teams can meet with these guys one-on-one, or sometimes have 2 or 3 guys from the organization in a room with a guy. Get a sense of who these people are, who these guys are away from the game, off the field. Get a sense of, what kind of person they're going to be if you're brought into that organization, if you sign that NFL contract. And again, there are eyes everywhere. There are guys out at night. Maybe there are guys going out and having a good time, or going out to eat, and having some deal with some guys. So there's always a chance to see who these people will be away from the field. So it gives the team a great chance to get a feel for these guys on and off the field. A great environment. I think if you're a senior or a rising senior yourself, and you're thinking about, coming to the Senior Bowl, it's a great experience. It is a good opportunity, particularly for guys who might be, fringe draft guys who might be anxious if they're going to hear their name called maybe on day 3. It's a good opportunity to really build up that draft stock.
I mean, I think it was Dak Prescott earlier this week who tweeted, that anyone who's at the Senior Bowl, take every rep seriously, every question, answer it seriously, everything you do, treat it as if you're being observed, because it probably is. And Dak can certainly attest to the value of going and putting himself out there and and landing in a dream spot almost.
Yeah, and I thought that was great advice from Dak Prescott. I mean, that's a guy that would be able to be a shining example of what the Senior Bowl can do for a person's draft stock. I mean, you get a chance to work with a coaching staff that's kind of like you. They get to know who you are, and I think Dak was right in that sense. There are eyes everywhere. I mean, there are always people looking around, observing what you're doing. So take advantage of every rep, every question, every meeting, every sort of opportunity to show your potential employer who you are. And that's what this really is. I mean, this is a week-long job for these guys. So I'm thinking about your own daily life, your own professions, like how you would treat a 20 to 5 minute job interview. They'll extend that over 4, 5, 6 days, and that's what this is.
So, I say, enough of the questions about the roundabouts of it. Who have you seen on the practice field so far this week who's caught your eye?
I mean, I'm down here watching the quarterbacks. This is really interesting quarterback. I think, I've now had 3 practices under our belt. We've got 2 North practices, 1 South team practice. And Nathan Peterman from Pittsburgh is kind of the guy that I think everybody's kind of coalesced around being the top quarterbacks here. They were in full pads today for this practice. North squad just finished up. Made a throw. They were doing situational 11-on-11 work. They had a 3rd down and 9 situation. A beautiful out route, deep out route along the other sideline, from 1 hash mark to the opposite sideline. Great anticipation, timing and placement on the throw. The coverage was good. The catch was good. And when the completion was made, I mean, you heard sort of the murmurs around the crowd. That group of scouts and personnel evaluators as well as draft writers who saw it. I mean, that was kind of your typical Sunday throw. So I think in terms of the quarterbacks, Peterman is definitely sort of put himself a little bit above the other guys. As I said before, he's finished up there in practice. The South squad next here in a few minutes. I'm still curious to see James Webb, Josh Dobbs, and even Antonio Gibson. That trio of South quarterbacks. I saw some things from them that I liked yesterday, some things that I still have question marks about, but to see how they progress now from day 1 to day 2, because again, you want to see a little bit of growth from these guys in the day. Perfect example yesterday, Stefan Lutoff, the Colorado quarterback, was doing some handoff work on some inside zone run shotgun formation. Footwork was in the lock, and you saw the Bears coaches taking the time, try to drill it into him, how he should use his feet on that play. Today, you saw improvement in that. So that's one of those things you get to see. The guy taking to coaching, learning what he's supposed to be doing, and then executing it at the next stage. So that's what I'm curious to see with this South group as this practice gets underway.
So, final question for you, Mark. Obviously, very appreciative of your time. Do you think any of the quarterbacks you've seen, or any of them who are there and not participating, have they got the chance to raise their draft stock to the level of a team moving heaven and earth to get them, a la Carson Wentz?
I don't think you're going to see a deal like that for a guy like Peterman. He does look like he's a top quarterback here. I don't think you're going to see a move like that, because as good as he's looked so far this week, there's sort of a limited aspect to his game. He's not going to fit every offensive style system. He's not going to be able to really push the ball vertically down the field. He does have adequate arm strength, with velocity on his throws, but that's more intermediate stuff. So I think he's sort of, Shane Alexander from inside the pylon, he's down here as well. We were talking about Peterman. He fits that mold of a contextual start. Somebody like a Kirk Cousins, who maybe won't fit in every offensive system, but he could fit in enough offensive systems where you can take him and build a team around him. I think Peterman's sort of that second round guy. I think that's probably where he'll end up. But I'd be surprised to see a team move a lot to get him in the first round. They might move up to get him in the second, but I'd be surprised to see that happen in sort of a first round deal.
Well, Mark, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you. Where can people find out more of your writing and more information, especially about the Senior Bowl?
Oh, definitely. You can check out the website, insidethepylon.com. We're doing myself, Shane Alexander. We did some wrap-ups from yesterday's stuff. John Ledger's down here as well. We'll probably have some stuff up. You can follow the site on Twitter. Our main Twitter account is @ITPylon. And you can follow me as well. Tweeting out the notes with the facts. I'm at Mark Schofield, MARK, SCHOFIELD.
That's great. Thanks again, Mark.
Thank you so much, Neil.
So, Dutton, that was a brilliant Mark Schofield there talking us through some draft stuff.
Absolutely. Inside the Pylon is a wonderful website, especially if you want to learn more about the X's and O's of the game. It explains like passing concepts and personnel groups. It's got a fantastic glossary of terms, and it has lots of video examples as well. And Mark knows the quarterback position, and so to get his views on it was very helpful.
Yeah, it was something. So as we said, to wrap up the show, in week one we gave some predictions on what we thought would happen. So we thought we'd review them and laugh / pat ourselves on the back. So if we start first with MVP done, I went for Aaron Rodgers and you went for Russell Wilson. Do we assume, by the way, that it's going to be Matt Ryan now?
If it isn't Matt Ryan, then there's something wrong with that process.
Yeah, I think it should be Ryan. So, but I mean, on that one, big ups to me. I probably got the guy who came third. If we say that Brady came second, Russell, bad year really for the whole Seahawks offense. Sorry,
a team in transition. It's prided itself in its ability to run the ball, and for the last 18 months, hasn't been able to do it as consistently as they would. Russell Wilson wasn't fit all season, never looked right. I think my process of arriving at that pick was sound, but the results have not garnered the response I was hoping for.
Defensive Rookie of the Year. I said Robert Kimdichie, who I'm not even sure played this year. But that the issue is there that I went Arizona Cardinals heavy, and that was a fatal flaw. You picked Jalen Ramsey, Dutton, who I guess is probably going to come second to Joey Bosa.
Probably. I think a lot of people basically wrote off Bosa because they thought no one's going to come in and have an impact missing this amount of time. But the fact that he was able to shows he could be special.
Yeah, he's a tremendous talent, and it's one of the reasons why when we talked about the franchises we'd like to go to, I picked the LA Chargers, as they've got a lot of young talent, and if they can keep it on the field, it should be excellent. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Dutton, you didn't pull any punches and went with Zeke Elliott. I tried to be a hero, assuming that the Tennessee Titans would run the ball a lot, but wouldn't run it with DeMarco Murray. Not true. DeMarco Murray had a pretty good year, especially to start. So I had Derrick Henry. I assume it's Zeke will beat Dak. Do we think that? I guess.
Well, maybe, just because it's not fair to give it to one on a team where there's two, so maybe they'll just give it to Carson Wentz.
Yeah, that's a great story and not going to happen. Coach of the Year, Dutton. This is my favourite. This is the pinnacle of my picking, as I picked Gus Bradley.
Oh, sweet Jesus!
Who didn't finish the year, so that was spectacular by me. You picked Mr. Pete Carroll again, going Seattle heavy, not quite worked.
Yeah, fast and loose, too fast, too loose.
Too fast, too loose this year for Pete Carroll. So NFC Championship game, Dutton. I had Packers at Cardinals, so I had Packers on the road. So one
half a point.
You had Cardinals at Seahawks, which couldn't have been more wrong, really.
Yeah.
We let's be honest. Like, you look back now and you think the Cardinals, really, but like we were not the only podcast / aficionados who thought the Arizona Cardinals were going to be excellent this year, and by Jove, they were not.
Oh yeah, they an awful lot of people drank the Kool-Aid for the Cardinals, but for one reason or another, it didn't happen.
It didn't, and I think there's big questions there in Arizona this year now about what's going to happen next season. AFC Championship game, Chiefs at Patriots for you, Dutton. Excellent, very close. I had Patriots at Bengals, not as close. Although did get AFC North against AFC East.
Yeah.
I then picked the Cardinals to beat the Patriots, and you picked the Seahawks to beat the Patriots. I don't know why we picked teams to beat the Patriots. I'm not really sure why we would do that, as I know there's still a week to go until the Super Bowl, but that looks pretty silly right now.
Were we drunk?
Or
have we still not done the drunk cast?
We still haven't done the drunk cast, so I'm assuming we weren't drunk. But we definitely, I think, got that wrong, but that's just me. So Dalton, that's it really. This week we're just trying to give you the lost week, so to speak, so we can then go heavy on the Super Bowl next week before we move gradually into drafts and more concepts of weird worlds and other such luminary stuff. Yeah,
let's do a quick one. While we're talking about predictions we may have got wrong. I'd just like to read you this quote. It's from a book. I'll explain more in a second. He often says that the primary job of a receiver is to simply get open and catch the ball, and he doesn't like what he sees from player X in either department. He thinks the receiver struggles to get open on intermediate routes, doesn't play as fast as his superb timed speed suggests, and too often displays inconsistent hands. There's also the issue of value. When person Y began studying the 2011 draft, he saw great depth at the receiver position. Why go all out for someone like player X when you can likely have a player Z who, as far as player Y can see, is just as good, if not better, than player X? Okay, here's the game.
That's Julio Jones, right?
Julio Jones is indeed player X. Who is the coach?
Well, it will be one of the 57 Cleveland Brown coaches.
He was a Cleveland Browns coach.
Oh,
he wasn't in 2011.
Is it Bill Belichick?
Yeah. Who is the other player who Belichick advised Thomas Dimitroff to go for and not make the trade for Julio Jones?
It's a very good question. I don't know the answer to.
Jonathan Baldwin.
I don't even know what that is.
That is an excerpt from the book War Room, which tells the story of how the Patriots were built, and also focuses quite a lot on Thomas Dimitroff and Scott Pioli when they left the Patriots to go about their own business. And of course, Thomas Dimitroff and Scott Pioli are the GM and assistant GM of the Atlanta Falcons.
Amazing stuff, Dalton. Amazing stuff. Like it. If you like the show, please review on iTunes, Waxing Lyrical, Mainz and Dutts. If you want to tweet us, we are together at waxing_lyrical. I am at Mainsy7 and Dutton is at ndutton13. We talk about many things on our singles accounts, on our individual accounts. We talk mainly NFL on the waxing lyrical one.
Yeah.
Dutton,
if you want hot singles, of course, you can find here. There's a whole host of accounts and websites that'll cater to that particular demand.
Exactly, and none of them are ours.
No.
So Neil, any last words?
Enjoy the last gap week before the last game, and then we enter the long dark tea time of the soul until September.
The long dark tea time of the soul. What a poet Neil Dutton is. I don't think we need to say any more. We'll see you next week.